Okay. Good to go? Okay. Next presenter is 911, Caitlin. And Caitlin, I hope you don't mind if we eat lunch or continue or finish lunch while you give your presentation. Otherwise, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, so I am the 911 director for especially anybody watching live. So as our purpose is, this is our mission statement, but essentially our purpose is to get help to people when they need it in the correct spot where they need it. So we have the challenges, of course, of being a consolidated dispatch center. We have a number of agencies, approximately 50. So that's 4 EMS, 21 police departments, and 25 fire departments, primarily within our county. Our call for services in 2019 were 133,596. I only say that because last year was skewed, of course, with COVID. So last year's was 125,891. So, but we are on track to exceed 2019's numbers. In 2020, we answered over 87,000 911 calls in the whole county, and then almost 110,000 administrative calls just at Berrien County's dispatch center. With our opportunities coming up into this next year, so including to increase our streamlined dispatching and interoperability with our transition to the 800 system, as we've been talking about a number of times ongoing, it's our intention in the county to dismantle and or absolve itself of the VHF system by the end of 2022, which will be this upcoming budget year. So all but one fire department is now fully on 800 paging, and 2 EMS services are still on VHF paging. So we're getting there. We also are hoping to improve our computer-aided dispatch services. That project was supposed to happen this year, but got pushed back in conjunction with COVID and staffing loss. So our go live is now scheduled for the beginning of February. And then we continue to hope to improve employee engagement and wellness. We've had increased opportunities for employee participation in decision-making and driving our department's direction. We're going to a new schedule in October, which we hope increases work-life balance. And then we're working to build a greater support system for our dispatchers as well. As far as our risks and issues, our staffing levels, I'm sure you hear this across departments. If I were full staffed, I would have 33 people on the floor total. And that would also then include our 3 admin and quality assurance supervisor and PSAP technician provided by IS. However, I currently have 3 vacancies, plus I will have another one in about 10 days due to a retirement. And I've got 4 people in training, and it's about a 6-month training period. So that essentially leaves me to 8 people down. In 2020, I lost 8 staff members for a variety of reasons. And in 2021, so far, I've lost 4. Then as far as going forward with further risks and issues, we're going to be learning and adapting to our new technologies, our new CAD system, the transition of all our departments and disciplines, the 800 megahertz system. So that just takes some, bumps in the road, getting used to everything. Then we've identified we have backup center capacity limitations, which I know I've spoken with you briefly about before as well, that we've just outgrown the space that we have at Niles City as our backup center right now. So we are identifying alternatives and how we can continue to operate if need be. Then as well, communications along the state line, especially in the southeastern corner of the county, with our transition to 800 megahertz, and then the opportunities that are afforded by Critical Connect, we hope to increase that coverage and improve our communications down there. All right, that takes me to this beautiful graph. Absolutely, good morning. So I will briefly touch here on our revenues. We are diversified in our sources of funding for 911 in Berrien County, which is fantastic. So we have the 911 millage locally, which provides most of our funds. We also have a local surcharge that's approved by you as the Board of Commissioners for the 42 cents. And then we have the state surcharge fines, which is 25 cents. And that does sunset at the end of this year. So the 911 community is working with the legislature right now at the state level to come up with what the new plan is going to look like to continue the funding and the build out of the NG 911 system. So, and then our operational budget, of course, like everything else, costs go up with wages, with service contracts, maintenance. And then, as you are aware, with all these department presentations, so these numbers, of course, don't include the capital projects this year yet, because those have not been added in. We do have a planned use of fund balance to spend that down. We have been gathering our funds together for some of these planned projects that we had, the CAD, the transition 800 megahertz. We'll need to replace our phone system in the coming years, our console furniture, etc. I'll take you to the one red line that was on that, which was the purchase services and charges. So that was a increased change over 2021 amended. As you can see there, that's due to increases in maintenance and service contract costs, telephone and cable and copier charges, and then associated, we provide some of the 911 funds brought in for the state to Niles City PD for their dispatch center, and they, of course, have increased costs as well. So that takes me back to, again, our beautiful graphic. So you can see a lot of green there up at the top. Some of this, it's difficult to tell versus 2020 because of the challenges that 2020 had and the uniquenesses of it. So then you can see on the right-hand side versus 2021 amended. Some of that with personnel costs. I have a young and experienced staff, which means that they might make less than a high experienced person, but they cost a lot more in training as well. So there's, I'd rather have a fully experienced staff if you gave me the choice, of course, but that's as we go forward. So, and then you can see there the capital projects aren't included. And then the transfers out, that is due to project planning as well, not being on there. So then this is the list of the capital projects that have been submitted to you. So that's the continued project of replacing the VHF system and the build out of the 800 megahertz signal coverage within our county. Then the next two lines are for the CAD project, going from our Aegis platform to the enterprise platform with Tyler. Then you can see replacement of our 24/7 dispatch chairs. They are specialized equipment used all day long, every day of the year, so they have to be very robust. And then our dispatch console furniture is nearing the end of its lifespan. It was installed when we moved over to Empire, so that was back in 2008. It's got a 10 to 15 year lifespan, and it'll be about 14 years old next year. So they don't make them anymore, the ones we currently have, and so getting parts for fixes has been difficult. And then associated with that, we have specialized flooring, of course. We've got a raised floor that goes underneath it, and that's pretty worn. And the best time to replace it is the time that you put all that heavy, very specialized equipment on top of it. So that's why that's included as well. Then towards the bottom, you see our replacement of one of our portable 800 megahertz radios, which is quite old. And then adding laptops to the dispatch floor. So we have very limited internet access on our dispatch computers by design for safety purposes. This would allow them some more open access to do their duties for investigative purposes through the laptops. And then also we have a lot more training that's gone virtual. They can't stream any video on their consoles, again, for security purposes. And a lot of video or a lot of training now has gone to that sort of training with virtual learning. And then if we have staff that need to have a laptop to do a virtual learning outside of the office, we would be able to provide that to them. That is the summation of my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Caitlin? Commissioner Fraley?
Staff.
Your standard question.
My time. Oh, wow. I had heard that you said that you have currently 33 positions, but that 3 are open and 1 is coming open. So that would mean that you currently have 29 full-time equivalents?
Yes, up for the floor, yes.
Okay. So if it's for the floor, then there are additional, because you have admin.
Yes, so we have admin staff. So there's myself, the assistant director, Tammy Smith, who's she does our MSAG and our FOIAs, et cetera, the phone system, in our support staff. And then we now have a PSAP technician that's actually an IS employee that we pay for as well.
Okay.
Then we have a quality assurance supervisor who ideally is doing just quality assurance. Right now, she is back on the floor because of our staffing shortage.
Okay. So in total then, that would make what, 34 if you're putting all of those part-times and halves together, and there's still going to be 4 open positions.
Yeah, so we'll have 4 open positions in about a week and a half.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions for Caitlin?
I've got just a couple of comments to offer if there's no questions.
Please do, sir.
Okay, so you saw some capital requests. What you haven't seen are really long-term capital requests that tie back to 911. Caitlin's team is aware of the use of ARPA funds. We're actively scouring what's coming down from the federal government in the form of the infrastructure bill. It appears that 911 communications is likely to be one of the potential sources of funding. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. It's just premature at this time, but I will say that we are looking at some alternate locations. Empire was absolutely cutting edge, but Empire is an example of a space that we're just starting to outgrow. All of you walked through Caitlin's operation. It's tight. It's tight, and given the equipment that they're running, it's warm, and it's probably not always the most comfortable atmosphere. But the biggest issue is she's just running out of physical space. So our options are, we can look to renovate Empire, we can look to try and push her operation out, but to make that all work, it is a little bit of Tetris. We're just moving things around. So as we look at Empire, we are giving serious consideration to trying to upgrade it, but alternatively, we are looking at some alternative properties. And as we get further into the budget process, I'll be ready to talk about that with the board and with the public. It's a little premature at this time, but my point on this is that as 911 is making improvements to the site, the thought there is that whatever is being done to the Empire site, it either can stay on site or it could be moved to an alternate location. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thanks, Brian. Anything else, Caitlin?
I don't have anything unless you have more for me.
Any questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Anybody
Anybody?
from records yet? Annette?
I reached out to him, but I haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
Minutes earlier.
Saturday night, hey, green, yeah.
Okay, now you're live, and this is your thing.
Oh,
Yep.
Well, man, no questions for records.
All right, we'll welcome Chris from Records. And Chris, it's all yours.
All right. Name is Chris Hartman. I'm the records manager here at Marion County over at our 2100 Empire building. We still have the same 4 staff members that we've had for the last 12 years. Our staff combined has a combined 65 years of experience in our department. So we're really proud of that. In this day and age of people switching jobs, that we have an experienced crew working for us, and they all enjoy working there. Our purpose statement in our department is to provide a high level of service to all county departments in meeting their needs for record storage, retrieval, preservation, and destruction. Certain departments take advantage of all 4 of those things. Some of them only do 1. It just varies by the department and their needs. I'm going to kind of group the opportunities and the risks and issues together because they kind of go together. If I had one big goal, it would be to increase the amount of digital scanning we're doing in our department. But the challenge of that is you need more staff members to do that. You need more scanning equipment, so there's a substantial cost to that. That being said, our biggest issue is our storage space in the warehouse. We have about, I would say, my gut is telling me about 85% of our available storage space on our shelves is taken up with boxes right now. So there's about 10,000 boxes we can store in that warehouse. There's about 8,500 on the shelf. So 1,500 sounds like a lot of boxes, but when you're looking at a long-term, what are we doing 10 years from now? It's sort of, worrying. That being said, the good news is that this year, as well as I would say the last 5 years, we are getting rid of about the same amount of boxes that we are bringing in. And that is a testament to all the department heads for working with us, signing off on the destruction notices so we can get stuff off the shelf. I don't have any special funds budgets. I don't have any capital requests. I just have a general fund. And if I recall correctly, by a percentage basis, 63% of our non-personnel budget is for shredding costs. That is to hire an outside vendor to come in, shred on site, as well as go to other county buildings and empty their confidential shredding bins. It's a very popular service and one that we couldn't live without because they shred so much more volume of records in a short period of time that our staff used to have to do by hand and take several months to do. They do in a matter of days. So that's about $10,000 a year, but it's worth every penny. 27%, I believe, of our non-personnel budget is for digital scanning projects that we're doing. We are scanning court files for circuit court, and we are scanning arrest records for the sheriff's department. Due to just the sheer volume of those projects, it takes 3 of our 4 staff members just to do that. So when I said earlier about hiring additional staff, that's why it's a problem, because we are so tied up with those 2 departments that it would be a substantial project to hire more people, more equipment, and so forth. I believe 5% of the budget is for supplies like banker boxes that we supply to all the departments, and 5% for our microfilm collection. We are not doing any more microfilming. It's an outdated technology, but we do have a substantial collection still on film, and we need about 5% of the budget to reduplicate any bad rolls of microfilm that have deteriorated, or to fund the technology that we use to pull up the images on the film. I believe it was $15,000 was the total non-personnel amount for our department. That's exactly what it was last year. So it came in at 0% there and met the guidance. And so it's not a real complicated budget. I think there's only like 5 lines in it. So when I see some of these other departments, I feel pretty blessed. So that's about all I have for you.
So appreciated.
All right, any questions for records?
Assuming no questions,
Mhm.
you're gonna see a recurring theme here, and it relates to Empire. And I think you just heard the statement, just becoming space limited. So Empire is a fantastic building, but it is one that we are gonna need to do something with. Either shuffle around some of the departments there or tack on space. But either way, as we award contract for the capital improvement planning, this is one that will just keep being brought onto your radar. Empire, so just backing up a few beats. Back in probably 2008, 2009, South Haven was still running its own PSAP, and it was unique. It was one of just a handful of small towns that were still running its own 911 operation. And the leadership here, Marion County, agreed to allow us to come down and take a look at Empire. And at that time, it was really cutting edge. And we toured the building, we toured the 911. And just as a personal anecdote, what I've noted is that between that time when I first toured it and now coming to work here, it's accomplished its goal, which is you providing a high quality service. And along the way, you've picked up a variety of local units to your PSAP. You also have a variety of operations going on within Empire, but there's a common theme, which is it's just starting to run out of space. So no action needed at this moment, but it is something that as you're thinking about the use of ARPA funds, that's a property to just keep your eye on.
Yeah, if I could add one other thing. When I say that we're breaking even on space year over year, it's a testament to departments like financial services, the old purchasing department, going paperless. See, when they go paperless, they're not sending us any more paper. And any old paper that they had on the shelf is now eligible to be destroyed, and that's pulled off. So we gain space that way. Unfortunately, there's departments like the juvenile department whose files are permanent, and they ship us about 40 boxes a year, and they just sit on the shelf, and they will sit there permanently. So, like I said, Brian's right, it's not panic time, because we are doing a good job of just really rotating with what space we have. Yep.
Any discussion with the sheriff to move some of his stuff out of there and get a few things less, and then we'll have inside space we can move?
Yeah, I haven't had any discussions with that, but I've always wondered, I don't really know how their records department functions. I don't know if they have a lack of space over there. But they actually send us their records and we scan them. So.
I'm talking about records, I'm talking about all the play toys and the fun toys.
Oh.
All that stuff there, move that wall in there.
I noticed that too, but I will say it's not air conditioned over there, so that would be, that's a good problem.
Remodeling inside is always better than building outside. Trust me.
Absolutely.
Terry, question?
So my question is, man, I have to keep being reminded today. Sorry. My question to you is, how are we doing in departments on going paperless? I know that you're saying that more and more are, meeting that mark. Is there anything that we could be looking at doing, incentivizing something?
Yeah, it's a great question. I especially want to point out the friend of the court. They are terrific. They went from sending us about 80 boxes a year to now we get maybe 10 a year. And it's dwindling with each year. And now all those records have been destroyed. We now have an open shelf in there to store other things on. It just really depends on the department taking the initiative and finding a record keeping system that works for them. A lot of places like I'll use the sheriff as an example. They send us their arrest files. When someone's arrested, they come to me and I scan them in, index them. But so many of the forms that they still use a pen to sign everything. And so they have to come over in paper form, and they have, now, at least in their case, those get scanned and then destroyed.
Right.
But, you know, we can take on more scanning projects, like I said, it's just we take more manpower, but like with Friend of the Court, as I mentioned, their staff is actively scanning stuff in too. So I guess to answer your question, maybe the best thing would be to encourage each department to do their own scanning, as, you know, as time permits. So,
And do those, if we're gonna be doing that type of encouragement, then Brian, this is a statement to you.
Yeah.
Again, I forgot. Tap it, just tap it, Bob. There you
you go.
go. So maybe the statement is looking at what equipment would be needed to support those departments to encourage that type of activity. Don't cringe too much, Doug. Okay, good.
But digital forms are an important part, then you can move them around electronically. So going back to the papers and paper signature, that's a problem.
yeah, it starts out as a paperless form, and then there's no paper to everything.
Before you leave this building or the next time you're here, just walk through the upstairs. We have a ton of square footage, and we've built forts out of all of the various, the filing cabinets, the cardboard boxes. And I feel like it's very much an indicator of what we're doing countywide.
Can I add, the scanning, I know, because I'm criminal. And since I've been county clerk since probably 2014, we bought the scanning equipment, then we found out that it didn't match up with the court document that we couldn't scan. Now, Friend of the Court was lucky enough, and Louise Stein, who was the past county clerk, she attached herself, Friend of the Court, Tom Watson attached himself, so he scanned where the opportunity was there, but we missed that window. So we bought the equipment, then we could never get it to connect. What I am concerned right now, because we're now going into criminal, I am very concerned that the scanning is not working well at all in the new software, which was supposed to be built in so we can scan, because I have to say the bulk of those criminal files are my office. No offense, but they are, because a district court file only has a short life, a criminal goes on a lifetime. And it's becoming very concerning, and I'm very concerned about this new court software that J-Works. And I would say that is the biggest problem. And if I can ask one more question, how's our atmospheric control room? Because I have certain documents, I mean, since
Yeah.
Lori Jarvis has passed,
Right.
it was a big topic with her, she was very passionate, but I can just kind of heads up while you're here.
No, it's still problematic, but it's within, it's below 50% humidity. You would really need to talk to Robert Ray about it.
So Robert Ray is the person, because I haven't seen any temperatures or anything. Lori used to share them with me, and I don't know.
Okay, it's on the S drive under records.
That's how I find
Yep, I
it.
post them every day, twice a day.
I appreciate you giving me that time, because otherwise it turns to vinegar. It's a different situation.
Interesting.
Okay, anything else for Chris? Thank you again, Chris.
Thank you.
Anything else for us, Brian? Does that conclude our budget hearings? Annette, that concludes?
You're waiting to go offline, you see,
Well,
Done.
are we offline?
That concludes our